everyone, this is Blender Helix Alpha, or Gray Walker from YouTube.com. Thanks for joining me on part 4 of my Blender beginners tutorials. So far we've learned how to rotate, scale, grab, extrude, select vertices and faces. We've covered a little bit of modeling, some extremely simple animation, how to set your pivot point, and how to converge items. So thanks a lot for joining me again on part 4. Today we're going to be learning how to assign materials and texture this door that we have here. I have a wood image that I got from cgtextures.com. They have copyright free images there that you can use. I won't provide a download link, but I suggest you just go and Google CG images and get your own wooden texture. This is going to be a little bit of a long video, but it's not going to cover any sort of advanced texturing techniques. These are very simple tutorials. And we're just going to be texturing our door today. Okay, so to assign your object a material in Blender, you have to go over here to your Properties toolbar. It should be on here by default. And let's drag this out a little bit just so we can see all of our menu items. And the way I did that was I just dragged out here on this little bar. When I dragged out here, I accidentally moved my pivot point, or not my pivot point, my spawn point here. You don't want to do that. So again, what you can do is hit Shift-C, and that'll recenter it. So let's go to our Materials tab, which is right here. Make sure you have this selected with right-click, this door right here. And this will bring up your material editor. And there are no materials on our object yet. So what we can do is hit New. And this will give us a very default material. This material is a white Lambert material. Lambert is your specular shader. That's a little bit of a mouthful right there. What a specular shader is it's basically a line of code that tells the game engine, not the game engine, but the program how to interpret the light that reflects your object. That's kind of what a shader is, exactly how to interpret light. So we're going to leave that exactly how it is. And you have all these tabs here. You have diffuse, specular, shading, and a few other Blender exclusive items. Let's just worry about diffuse and specular right now. Diffuse is the color that your material is while no light is hitting it. So if we wanted to select this color here, and by default it is white, we can go to an orange, and you can see that our door is now orange. If we wanted to make it a darker orange, more of a brownish, we can go ahead and do that. And now our diffuse color is orange. But you can see that the reflection on here isn't. It's sort of a white still. That's because the diffuse has nothing to do with the light. It's exactly what the color is when there is no light. So let's go to our specular color, which is the reflection, and we can change that to a little bit more of a yellow color. So you can see that it blends in just a little bit better with our orange, or with our brown. And right now on the preview panel, it's using a sphere to show us what our material looks like. We have everything from a flat plane to a cube to even a monkey to look what our material looks like. We'll keep our monkey just so we can see what everything looks like. And obviously, since this is a door, we're looking to have a material a wooden material. So we're not actually going to worry about any of these other panels here. Like I said before, we're just going to learn the diffuse and specular. So let's go ahead and turn our diffuse up to 1. By default it is 8, but let's go ahead and put it up to 1. It's not that important, but we can go ahead and do that. Next, I'm going to teach you a little bit about the specular hardness and intensity in Blender. A little bit different than most things. in other 3D programs. The intensity of your specularity is basically the opacity, how bright or intense the specular reflection is. And for wood, it's not going to be that bright, so we can drop it down to 0.4 if we want to. For the hardness, the specularity is going to be very hard. And basically what that means is how smooth the specularity is going to be. And since this is just a cube, it's going to have very, very limited places to reflect, so we're not going to worry about that at the moment. Let me go to this sphere here, or a doorknob, and show you exactly what hardness would look like here. So this is 0 hardness, where it reflects everything no matter what. And this is what 200 hardness looks like, where it reflects very little. Okay, so let's leave it at 100. And next, let's go to our textures panel. The textures panel correlates very much with the materials panel in that it references directly from the materials. So let's go to the textures panel by clicking this checkerboard right next to the sphere. Okay, this is our textures panel, and let's go ahead and click new. And this will give us the default texture, which is clouds. Now we don't want clouds. We want an image. So we can go to type, change that from clouds to image or movie. And what this allows us to do is use an image or movie as a texture for our material. And the way we load it up here is we go to image in the image tab. If it's collapsed, you can just hit this arrow and we can open our image. And I have it on my desktop here. And this will open up your wooden texture. Notice that it's still not on our material. And the reason for that is because we haven't mapped it to our material yet, or our object. UV texture mapping is very, very complicated. So I don't want you guys to get over your heads with it because it takes a lot of practice. I'm still not very good at it, and I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. So what you want to do is go to mapping, the mapping tab on your textures panel. Go to projection. I'm sorry, not projection. Go to coordinates and change that from generated to UV. Okay, now we're ready to UV map our door. We need the UV image editor to do that, but we don't have the UV image editor open yet because Blender doesn't have it open by default. So what we can do is right click on this little divider icon that appears when I put my cursor up here on any one of these expansion bars, and right click, and that'll bring up this menu, and you can go to split area, and that'll give you a little ruler here where you can change where you want your window to appear. So let's just click somewhere here, and that'll make another 3D view. And what we did was we split the view into another window. So let's change it from a 3D view to a UV image editor. So now we have our UV image editor right next to our 3D view. It's very handy, very, very cool. So let's load up our image into our UV image editor by clicking this and selecting our wooden texture that we loaded up into Blender. The UV image editor navigational controls are very, very similar to that of the 3D. To pan, you use the middle mouse. To zoom, you use the middle mouse up and down. And you can select things with right click as well. So, what we're wanting to do now is unwrap our object onto this image. Think of it as a cube that you cut up into different pieces and you have to put back together. But instead of putting it back together as a cube, you're putting it as a flat plane on top of an image. So what we can do is hit tab to go into edit mode in our 3D panel. And let's go back from vertices select mode to face select mode. Let's select our front face here. Now that we have our front face selected, what we want to do is change from perspective camera editor mode to orthographic so we can see everything flat. It's going to really help us to get everything nice and coordinated. So we hit 5 on the numpad to go to orthographic, and then let's hit 1, or actually let's hit 3 to go to our side view. So now everything is a flat plane and ready for unwrapping this face. To unwrap, go to U, and we're going to project this face from the view that we see it at the moment. So if we click project from view, it interprets our view that we have in our 3D and puts it on here on top of this image. Pretty cool, huh? I think so. And from here, we can paste our image or our coordinates from here on anything we'd like. We can even rotate it. And now this face is on here, but we can't see it yet. And why is that? Because we're not in texture mode. So we can go to texture mode here. Next to object mode and edit mode menu is this button, and by default we're in solid. We can go to texture, and now you can see that this front face is mapped. We can even move it and see it in real time as we're sizing it on the texture. As you can tell, the other selections on our object are white, and that's because there is no texture on those. So what we can do is select our face, and then if we want to select everything but our face, we can hit Control-I, and that'll inverse your selection, or invert your selection. That'll select everything but what you had selected before. So let's go ahead and unwrap these. But instead of projecting these from view, we can UV project with Blender's Smart technique, and that'll give us some options. They're pretty advanced. Feel free to mess around with them if you'd like, but I'm just going to hit OK. And what that can do is it will use Blender's Smart capability to project those onto here. So as you can see, if we look around here, we can see that these spheres are real squashed up, and this sphere is over here, and that spheres are from this knob here, and it didn't unwrap too well. So what we can do is select these spheres, and you can either select one vertices at a time, which would take so long. We don't want to do that. What we can do is just select one vertices and then hit Control-L, and that'll select all of the linked vertices. Let's go ahead and do that. So if we select one vertices on each of these spheres here on our texture map coordinates, and then hit Control-L, it'll select our spheres for us. Let's size those up. Let's just size those so they look good here. I'm going to move this over here so that they kind of look alright. Now they're still white, and I'm not really sure why that is. I think that's just because we haven't. There you go. If you load back our image, like if they're still white, you can hit here and just select your image again, and it'll project it onto there. So what we have now is a textured door. How awesome is that? Now, as you can kind of tell, everything looks really, really flat. And that's because there's no lighting yet. There's no lights in their scene yet. So what we can do is hit Shift-A, lamp, point. And everything's black, even though we just added a light. And why is that? Because our light is inside of our model. We have to move it out. So if we move our model or our light out, you can start to see some lighting. and you just made a door, a wooden door, and textured it, and it looks really cool. Okay, so if we wanted to render an image, what we can do is make a camera. So Shift A, camera. Drag this out. And to go to our camera view, we can hit 0 on the numpad, and that will take us to our camera view. And if we want to aim our camera somewhere, we can hit Shift F, and sort of like a game, we can look at something with our mouse. And we can hit GY while our camera is selected, and we can rotate our camera around places, and we can look at our door. I'm going very fast. I know some of you are going to be lost by now. If you have caught up with me, I am very happy with you guys, and I hope that you are able to keep up. But all we've done so far is added a lamp, moved it around, we textured our door. Go back in this video if you want to, watch it again to see exactly what I did, and it'll help you out. We added a camera, and we're going to our camera view by hitting 0 on our numpad, and we can hit Shift F to look around with our mouse. But let's look at our door. Now we're going to select our door and our doorway. Let's move it up a little bit. And let's make a plane by hitting Shift A, Mesh, Plane. Size that up a little bit. Now let's aim our camera up a little bit just so we can look at everything. And now what we can do is hit F12 on our keyboard, and that'll render an image. I'm not really sure why it... Oh, I think I didn't move my... Oh, I see. Because our door is animated, it has to stay there. So if we make it animated right here, I'll just do that for now, just for the tutorial purposes. Don't worry about it. If we hit F12, we can see that it renders an image. And if we want shadows, we can right-click our point light and go to the point light section and enable ray shadows by clicking ray shadow. Hit F12, and now we have ray shadows. How awesome is that, guys? Look how much you learned. Okay, so this is the ending to this tutorial. I kind of crammed a lot of stuff in at the end there, but I hope you guys were able to follow it. If you weren't, then please go back and you know, fiddle around with things until they start working for you. But this is how you make a very, very basic 3D scene with lighting and everything. And this is the end for part 4. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I very much appreciate it, and I will see you later.